Well, hello, DCO Nation, and welcome back to another DCO Live. We got a bunch of guys on tonight. I really appreciate you guys taking the time and jumping on here tonight. Talk a little inshore fishing. Who's all on here? Tony, Russell, Freedom's on, Brian's on, Yakin. I saw you a little bit earlier. Appreciate you guys jumping on. If I missed you, I will catch you here in a little while. Sorry about that. I'm doing a little behind the scenes stuff right here, but hope you guys are doing well. If you guys have been fishing, let me know in the comments and let me know how you guys have been doing. I know I follow Brian on Instagram, and I know he's been out and he's been catching some flounder and some fish. So guys, I appreciate you jumping on. A couple of things I want to kind of talk about tonight is one, I had the kind of the honor and the privilege to be invited down to Charleston last night. I was the guest speaker at the Salt Strong chapter meeting down in Charleston. Ralph reached out to me several months ago and he said, "Hey, would you like to be a guest speaker down here?" And I said, "Yeah, man, I'd love to do it." So that was set up probably back in like April or maybe even late March. I'm not exactly sure what Ralph does in the chapter, but what a great guy. Met Katie and Ed and Corey and just a bunch of people. They had a nice full chapter meeting last night, and a lot of good questions came out of there. And a lot of these questions and topics that I'm going to be hitting tonight came from the meeting last night. And Everett jumped on and he just said, lots of flounder last week, 2 keepers, a 25 and a 16. Ooh, that 25, man, that's a sweet fish. Yeah, that would have been my PB. Nice, Everett. Love it, man. Steve jumped on there. How you doing, buddy? So, one of the questions that came up last night, and I thought it was a really good question, and a lot of people, pop these questions into the comments. So one of them, the gentleman was asking about bait selection, and really he was asking more about bait color. What colors do I use? And so I kind of started from the beginning. So let's talk about bait selection just real quick and how I kind of work through it. So one of the first things that I look at is the size of the bait that I'm going to be using. So everybody likes to use the term match the hatch. I like to see what's kind of swimming around there. I like to see the profiles and what I am seeing along the shoreline. So that's the first thing. So, it may be a 3 or a 4-inch paddle tail. It may even be a 5-inch diesel minnow or one of the bigger profile paddle tails if I'm seeing, some bigger finger mullet or whatnot running along the grass lines. And then also, don't forget about the size of the shrimp that could be popping. When I was out fishing this weekend, I saw a lot of small shrimp popping around the grass lines and around the oyster beds at low tide. So I'm not going to be throwing, the big 3.5 or even 4-inch shrimp patterns when these fish are keying in and only seeing maybe 1 or 2, 2.5-inch size shrimp. So matching that hatch and matching that size is kind of where I really start, especially when I'm maybe paddling out to a spot. If I am not really seeing anything, how do I judge? If I'm not seeing anything swimming along, I'll just kind of start out maybe on the smaller side, maybe a 3 or a 4-inch paddle tail or a smaller size shrimp. And if I start picking some stuff up, then I'll gravitate and maybe get a little bit bigger, or if I start to see things. So match the hatch, or if you're not seeing anything, maybe start on the smaller side and then work up. Unless you were out like the day before and they were hitting 5-inch diesel minnows, then they're already keyed in on that. But if you haven't been out on the water, several weeks or even a month, I would maybe start on the small side unless you're into the middle of the summer, and then you can start on that 4 to 5 inch, because the finger mullet are going to have some size to it, and the bait fish are going to have some size to it as the season progresses. So that's kind of how I do it, and that's kind of how I look at size, just kind of starting off. Second, I look at the weight of my jig heads and what I'm going to be fishing. So weight of the jig heads, rule of thumb is whatever depth water I am in. I addressed this last night, and excuse me. And basically, from 1 to 3 feet of water, I'd like to use maybe a non-weighted hook to 1/8 of an ounce. And that's in that 1 to 3 feet. That'll get me onto the bottom. It's not a real fast fall right to the bottom, but it'll get me into that water column. Obviously, a hook that doesn't have any weight on it, it's going to ride up into the column, maybe the top of the column. That 1/8 of an ounce will be on the bottom. But if you reel it a little bit faster, it'll stay in the middle of the column. So that 1 to 3, no weight to 1/8 of an ounce. 3 to about 5 feet, give or take. I like that 3/16. 3/16 is almost kind of my go-to. I'll throw a 3/16 even in that 1 to 3 foot range of water depth. But again, 3 to 5 feet, maybe 6 feet, I like that 3/16. And then that 5 to 6 feet to, I'm going to say 8, 10 feet, I'm using a 1/4 ounce. So that's how I'm getting onto the bottom. Now, if I am targeting trout, especially like during the fall, if I am fishing these deeper holes, these 10-foot deeper holes, I am going to use 1/8 of an ounce and a lighter weight, because it's going to be a slower fall through the water profile, and these trout will attack it instead of it zipping down to the bottom with a 1/4 ounce and and basically dropping past the trout. So yeah, that's how I look at the weight. John just threw a question in. Let's get to him real quick. John, I appreciate it. He says, do you fish polys much? Was there last week probably 25 total, PB 23, one redfish at 21.5? Caught on lures and mud minnows and a combination of both. I never see you throw a double rig. Any reason why? So let's start up at the top. Do I fish polys? Yes. I do fish polys. I love polys. I plan on getting down there very, very soon. I love that area. It's just a fantastic fishery. As I read back through here, I never see you throw a double rig. No, I don't throw a double rig. One, I don't know how to tie it. I probably should learn how to tie it. Guys swear by them. I don't know a whole lot about them. A lot of people call them a donkey rig, but no, I don't use it because, one, I don't know how to tie it. But I tell you, I think this was brought up a couple of weeks ago about the donkey rig or the double rig. If you watch Flats Class YouTube, C.A. Richardson's YouTube channel, excuse me, I'm kind of tripping over my tongue this morning or this evening. He has an episode that is dedicated to the double rig and how he fishes it, how he uses it, how he weights it, all of that. So I would definitely go over there and take a look at that episode. It is done really, really well. So nope, I don't use a double rig. And yes, I do fish polys. So, and I love it. I've caught a ton of reds, a ton of nice flounder out of polys, and love it. Absolutely. Yak and Inshore said all the flounder caught last week was on a Ned shrimp. We're all small, 116.5. Yep, absolutely. I'm actually going to be addressing that here. But yeah, there's a ton of small flounder out there right now, especially in Merle's Inlet. You got to pick through them if you are looking for keepers. But yeah, but the bite is just, I mean, incredible right now. Absolutely incredible. So I appreciate all the questions and the comments. Guys, let's keep going back to bait selection here. So the colors that I use, if you guys are watching my videos, you guys know that I stick a lot to the whites and the natural colors. You won't see me throw a lot of pinks and chartreuses and things like that. Now, I may throw something that has a chartreuse tail, but just to have a green chartreuse paddle tail, I usually don't throw them. The only color outside of maybe a natural color is something dark in color, maybe like a purple or a black for really stained, muddy water or overcast skies. So those are really the only colors. I like the natural colors. If you're in nice, clean, clear, gin clear water, the more natural color that you can throw, the better off you're going to be. If you're in that clear, don't throw anything that's purple or black in color. It's not going to look right. It's not going to look natural. I like the red bone from Z-Man, Houdini color, pearl white, beer run, those kind of colors. I think there's one called the right stuff. One has like a green back, a blue back. I like the bicolors. So yeah, absolutely. And honestly, when I'm fishing polys, there is something about electric chicken and polys. So that pink and yellow color at polys, the flounder love it. So that is a color that I will kind of gravitate towards when I go down to poly. So those you guys who are on the south end who love polys, try throwing the electric chicken and let me know how that works out for you. Mr. Gilmore is on. How you doing, buddy? Hope you're doing well. Said, John, you were trolling from a boat. Was at Polly's on my kayak and saw lots of people trolling with mud minnows. Yeah, absolutely. People definitely would troll with the mud minnows right there on the bottom. Yep, absolutely. So yeah, that's great. So I'm going to kind of keep on going. So natural colors and the electric chicken down towards polys, try those. But if you have a confidence color that you fish it. Don't let anybody change anything that you are catching fish with. Not me, not anybody. I throw baits that I have confidence in. There is something about that. If I tie something on that I have never thrown before, I usually abandon it pretty quickly and go back to something that I have confidence in. So those are just kind of my thoughts and my opinions when the gentleman was asking about bait selection. There was another question that was brought up about basically fishing the right spots. So he had a scenario where he said that he went out, it was getting close to low tide, and he was throwing up around some oyster bars and some grass lines, and it wasn't very deep. He said maybe only a couple of feet, and he was targeting trout. That is not an area that I would be targeting trout. Trout need to be in some deeper holes. Trout naturally feed upwards to attack their prey. So they're not going to be in 1 to 3 feet of water. As the water starts dumping off of flats, if you find trout, they are going to find these deeper holes and ridges that are going to fall off into whatever 5, 6, 8 feet of water. That's where they're going to be, and they're going to be in the middle of that column, and they're going to wait for things pulling off the flat, and they're going to attack it upwards. Trout will not be in that shallow water. Okay, so if you are going out targeting trout, make sure that you kind of think about how the trout feed and where they're going to be at. The same thing with a redfish. A redfish, I only target redfish in 1 to 3 feet of water. That's it. They are bottom feeders, and I like them in shallow water. When people see tailing reds, they are nose down, and those tails are flapping up into the air. So, guys, know your fish, know what you're targeting, and know where they're going to be. The same thing with flounder. Flounder will be in 1 to 3 feet of water, okay, because they're going to lay on the bottom and they will attack upwards, okay. So that's where I was, explaining to that gentleman that you have to kind of know the fish you're targeting and how they feed. It'll take you a long way down the road so that you're not in the wrong spot at the wrong time. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Dave, been a while. Hey, I appreciate you jumping in here tonight. Good to see you, buddy. Dave, I think throw into the comments. Are you still doing a lot of shark fishing? I think you've been. At least the last time that we talked, I think that you were doing some shark fishing. So throw that down there and kind of let me know. See, my gosh, we're about halfway through already, man. I'm kind of just getting ready to go here. So time flies by, man. I love these things. So I had been fishing last weekend. It was Memorial Day weekend. Excuse me again. It was Memorial Day weekend, and I actually got out quite a bit. And I did a challenge on one of my days. Gunner's in town. How you doing, buddy? Hang on. I wanted to get this because I just asked the question. Dave said, I have been. I had my girlfriend's son hooked up on a 4-foot bonnet head on the beach yesterday. I can send you a photo. Man, that's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, so I know that Dave does a lot of shark fishing, so that's really cool, really cool. So yeah, I have been fishing quite a bit, and the flounder bite has been absolutely incredible. On one of my next videos coming out, I wanted to do 100-inch challenge. I wanted to catch 100 inches of fish, no matter what fish it was. If I got them into the kayak, I was going to measure them, whether it was a 10-inch flounder, 30-inch redfish, whatever, it was going to be measured. And I wanted to try to get to 100 inches, wanted to get to that century mark. So I went out, started fishing, flounder bite was on. Here's how much the flounder bite is on. I ended up catching 165 inches of fish, not one keeper, not one fish over 16 inches. So I've got some 15s, 15 and a halves, but they were all short, but they were plentiful. So you guys know me. I love just catching fish, whether they're keepers or not. I get, just as excited for a 10-inch flounder than I do, my 23. I just want to catch, fish. I just love the tug on the line. So, and then the next day I actually went out with Heath. You guys know Heath. I fished with Heath quite a bit. And we were doing some topwater. It was a little bit of a windy day. So I'm hoping the audio isn't too bad, but it is what it is when it comes to wind and microphones. But it was high tide, so we made a run out to a flat, and it was pretty choppy. I bet you sometimes by the time we were leaving that flat, you were just starting to see, some white caps starting to form. So that's kind of how choppy it was that day. Well, we got Heath hooked up on his first redfish on Topwater, and it was awesome. He was fighting this thing. I was pivoting around. I was getting it on video, and his fish dove underneath his kayak, and his rod was bent like a U. Well, he didn't want that redfish to get caught up into his pedal drive. So he gave that a little extra tug and broke his rod during the fight of that fish. It was crazy. He kind of threw up his hands for a second, was like, oh no, my rod. And I was like, he's still on. You got your fish is still hooked up. Get him. And he starts hand lining this fish in and ended up boating this fish first topwater red. It was, I think, 24 and a half. Awesome fish. Hopefully I got it all on camera because it was you talk about chaos. It was absolute chaos. So yeah, and I loved it. And then really about 10 minutes later, I hooked up on a 26 and a quarter on Topwater. And he was a ton of fun. And he got some pictures. Matter of fact, the picture of the thumbnail that you guys have been looking at today on Instagram and Facebook, that's the 26-inch red that I hooked up on. But one of the things that I want to talk about as far as that topwater bite and being in the wind in those rolling waves, I was using the Head and Spook Junior. No, I'm sorry. I did not have the Head and Spook. I had one topwater with me, and it was the Salt Strong Moonwalker. It was the only topwater I had with me. I took some of them out. I don't know why I didn't put them back in, but whatever. So I tied that one on. And as I was moving it through the water with the chop on the water, you're not really getting a good walk the dog because of the wave action. So I was basically using it as a popper so that I could hear that chug, that pop, pop, chug, chug, pop. And that 26-inch red probably missed it, I'm going to say 6, 7, 8 times. He finally took it and nailed it. But I wasn't doing that walk the dog because you can't. So you've got to adapt with your conditions to make sure that you're optimizing whatever lure, especially topwater in the wind. And that's what I was doing. I didn't have a popper with me, but I just kind of used that commotion of that topwater to attract that fish. And I think Heath was doing the same thing because you couldn't get that action with the waves. So kind of keep that in mind when you guys are out there and there is, some fairly decent chop on the water, that you don't have to worry about getting that perfect walk the dog action. Just any kind of commotion will attract those fish in. So yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. You guys are giving him some props. And yeah, absolutely. If you guys follow him, I think it's SC Kayaking on Instagram, go over there and give him a big thumbs up, because that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. A lot of fun. And then on Monday, I ended up getting out for a few hours with it being Memorial Day. And there was a ton of boat traffic, obviously, with Memorial Day. There was a bunch of people out. And again, I caught, I think maybe like 5 flounder that day. 2 of them were keepers, 16 and a half. The rest were pretty short. I think maybe around the 14-inch mark. And I was getting them, again, on the bottom, slow rolling with paddle tails. I was throwing a lot of the 5-inch diesel minnow all weekend and catching plenty of fish. Even the 14s were eating those 5-inch diesel minnows. They are that aggressive right now. And they are wanting something that is moving on the bottom. The tide was low. I was targeting some creek mouths, and I was throwing up into the creek and pulling it out from the creek to the creek mouth, just like, the bait fish would be pulling out of those creeks. So, and there was one spot where I think I picked up 3 or 4 flounder in one little creek mouth just doing that. So I was swimming them out, and he was dropping down, and they were just feeding on it. So, kind of keep that in mind too. Throw up into those creeks as the water is dumping out, and give that very natural presentation of those bait fish coming out of those creeks. So yeah, that's kind of how I was picking up my flounder. I picked them up. Let's see, I picked up one right off the grass line. Yeah, they were in kind of all different areas, but I think the majority of them came from creek mouths or right around creek mouths and oyster bars. So guys, I hope that helps you out. If you guys have any questions, throw them in. We got about 5 minutes left, and I'll kind of get to them here tonight. But let's kind of talk about the weekend and kind of what's coming up, the weather conditions, the tides. So Saturday, I think it's going to be a little bit windy on Saturday. I was looking at my weather app, and I think the wind's going to be 12, 15, something like that. So it's going to be a little on the breezy side. So if you guys go out, just be aware of that. The tide, I want to say the low tide is fairly early in the morning. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to say like 8 or 8:30, something like that on Saturday, maybe 7:30. So it's going to be fairly early. And then high tide is probably going to be upwards around 2. And then on Sunday, Sunday actually looks to be really nice. I'm seeing winds less than 10 miles an hour. I think on my app, I think I was seeing anywhere between 4 and 7 miles an hour. So that's going to be a really nice day. So if you can get out on Sunday, especially if you guys are kayakers, excuse me, I think Sunday is the perfect day to be out. And again, that tide is going to be about an hour later. So low tide on Sunday should be 8, 8:30, high tide 2:30, 3 o'clock, something like that. So guys, I hope that helps you out tonight. I know we're just a little shy of 30 minutes. We're at 27. But again, I just want to thank Salt Strong for inviting me out, and me going down to Charleston. And oh, wait a minute. Got a quick question here. It says, Chris, low tide versus high tide, what's best? Okay, what is best? My opinion, if I had one tide, if the good Lord said, Chris, you can only fish one tide for the rest of your life, I would fish the last 2 or 3 hours of the outgoing and the first 2 or 3 hours of the incoming. That bottom horseshoe is what I love. But as far as what's the best tide, I really don't have a best tide, because even at high tide, I go up onto the flats and I target grass lines, and there is plenty of fish up on those flats. That's where I'm catching a lot of the redfish. That's why I caught the redfish on Topwater was up at the flats at high tide. So, no, I don't think there is a best tide. You just need to go out and figure out where the fish are during those tides. The one thing that you do have to keep in mind with trout and redfish, they do like current. So during that slack tide time, you're probably not going to pick up any trout or redfish. Now you can pick up flounder during during slack tide. And I do that all the time. When I get into those slack tide times, I'll start targeting flounder, and flounder will hit no matter what, if there's current or not. Now, obviously, they're more aggressive when there's some current moving, but you can pick up flounder during slack tide. So I kind of readjust when that water isn't moving around. But yeah, as far as what's the best tides, it really doesn't matter. Just put yourself into an area and a position where you can utilize the high tide if you're not confident during high tide. And if you're not confident during a certain tide period like high tide, go out and fish high tide and learn how to do it, so that the weekend that you're fishing, you're like, oh man, I'm fishing the high tide hump. I'm not very good at it. I'm not going to go out. Go out, take your lumps, and learn something. That was another question that came up was, is getting skunked good? Yeah, getting skunked is good. I get skunked all the time. And what I was telling this gentleman is, I have a camera on, so I actually come back and watch that footage when I'm skunked. So I'm learning. I'm like, okay, where was I at? What was I doing? Was I working a lure too fast? Was I working it too slow? Was I only targeting creek mouths? Was I not doing that? So I can go back and almost analyze my day and break it down. So guys, getting skunked is good. You are learning something. You're eliminating water and trying to figure out what didn't work that day, so that if you're fishing the next day, you can change it up. Okay. So yeah, I appreciate the question. Thank you so much. Russell, let me see. Just a new kayak. What would you get for the first one? Okay. So if you're looking, I think you're asking if you're looking to get a first kayak, what would you get? Um, First of all, figure out what kind of fishing you want to do, because they definitely make kayaks that are specific to specific situations. If you're going to be doing a lot of river fishing, you're going to want something that is going to be a little bit shorter and maneuverable, and it doesn't draft a lot. The Crescent Shoalies are really good. They are basically built for river fishing. If you're going to be doing a lot of lake fishing, then really, I would say a longer kayak, because a longer kayak is going to give you speed to get from spot to spot to spot. The maneuverability isn't going to be the best. The longer the kayak, the worse the maneuverability. The shorter the kayak, you can cut around and it's really maneuverable. So if you are going to be working a lot of docks in and out and in and out and in and out, a shorter kayak will be a little bit better. If that is really isn't a concern, then a longer kayak. If you're going to be fishing saltwater and making big runs, choppy water, I would go with a longer kayak, maybe a 12, 13, 14 foot kayak. They're going to be more stable. The wider the kayak, those 32, 34, 35-inch kayaks, you can stand up in and they're going to be very stable. So again, whatever type of fishing scenario that you're going to be doing, that's how I would determine what kind of kayak. Now, if you have additional questions, Russ, go ahead and hit me up on Instagram, and and I'll be more than happy to chat with you about it. Maybe I can steer you in whatever type of direction that you want to go. But yeah, man, I'm glad you're getting into the kayak scene. I love them, and I'm a kayak guy, so I think it's the way. I think it's the way to go. Hey, man, I'm cheap. I'm a redneck at heart. There's no gas, there's no insurance, and I hose it down at the end of the day, and I'm loading it back up the next day. So I love it. But yeah, man, hit me up if you got any additional questions. Be more than happy to chat with you. Or if you hit me up, I'll give you my phone number and we can chat on the phone a little bit. So, all right. So, guys, I really appreciate you. Again, I will see you all next week. Now, next week, I am setting up for having all of the charter captains back on again like I did last month. So, last month, I had 5 different charter captains on from North Carolina all the way down to Charleston. So I am planning on doing that next week. I've already got a couple of confirmed on. I know that Captain Stephen Fluke Jr. is not going to be able to join us because he is heading down to Louisiana because he is in a redfish tournament. And so he won't be on, but I'm going to, Captain Bob has already confirmed he is going to be on next week. So we've got that Cherry Grove, North Carolina, Little River area covered. I'll be reaching out to Captain Jason Burton, Captain Chris Regan for Murrells Inlet area, kind of that centralized area, that Georgetown, Murrells Inlet, Pawleys. And I'll be reaching back out to Captain Tanya to see if she would like to join us again to kind of focus on that Charleston area. And if there happens to be any charter captains watching or listening that are from the Beaufort or Hilton Head area, and you would like to join into the conversation next week, hit me up on Instagram at Deadcom Outdoors, and we can see about getting you on. But again, it should be another great episode. We're going to be breaking down the month of June and what you guys should be looking for, the baits, the patterns, the techniques, the things that these guys who are out on the water every day, what they're seeing and how they're going to be fishing June. So hopefully you'll join next week, next Thursday, 8 o'clock, and we'll run it for as long as we're going to run it. The 30-minute kind of time frame is kind of thrown out the window when I got all of these charter captains on, because I want to make sure that we're covering the topics and the questions that you guys want to hear, and that we can answer all of your guys' questions. So again, guys, I'm looking forward to next week. And again, thank you so much for joining for DCO Live, and same bat time, same bat channel. And I will end it how I've been ending it. Conservation starts with you. Release a fish for someone else to enjoy. Guys, I appreciate you. Get out there, do some fishing this weekend. Hit me up, let me know how you did, and I will see you all next week. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.